What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another Black Series custom video. Today we'll be working on Pong Krell from the Clone Wars. So we started off with this NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder clone. This big guy's like $50, I think, but he goes on sale quite often. So I was able to get him at kind of a good price. But with the NECA figures, the articulation's kind of dookie. So I know this guy's not going to be able to move great just from the jump. So we're going to try to work as best we can to keep him as articulated as possible. So here's all the pieces I got. I got these from forcecreators.store. I'll drop a link in the description about where I got these, but his quality is really good and his prices are really cheap. So I've been ordering from him quite a bit. So this guy was so big I had to boil him in a pot just to get all of the parts heated up to take them apart. But you can see here how far he breaks down. I get those knee joints out later too, but being fully transparent, I made this like 3 months ago and the audio got deleted from this video, so I did a lot of sanding here that you don't have to do now. This whole torso had to be sanded down originally, but the new version from Force Creators, the 3D printed part is split in half, so you can just glue it on without having to do all this dremeling. But I did dremel down the knees and the elbows just so I could avoid some paint rub there. I did also have to dremel down the lower legs. It's probably easier if you cut off a bunch, like about this high, and then dremel around that, and you can pop them into the boot leg piece, the 3D printed part that comes with it. But here's the torso all dremeled down. Like I said, with the new version, you don't have to do this, but this was 3 months ago. So after I got everything glued down as best as I could, I filled in the gaps with this epoxy sculpt, make it look a little bit prettier, and also to keep things from moving around in there, kind of back up the super glue a little bit. And this worked out really well, holding it all in there secure. It does make him kind of top heavy though. So this is after I primed the arms. Just primed everything with the Mr. Hobby primer. And then I went over everything with a few coats of this Zendari dust. I think it's how you say it. But I also hit it with like a light couple of coats of this flesh tone. And that kind of helped the skin look a little bit more natural, less pale. I think the Zendari dust was a little bit pale. So here's the legs after I got those painted too. I haven't glued these in yet just because I thought it'd be easier to paint. But then I hit the robes with this orange color, this rat skin flesh. It turned out to be like the perfect orange to match the show. But on top of that, I dry brushed this color just to bring out some of those details. So that's what it looked like after all of the robe painting. And I went in with this leather brown to just try to paint the under robes and also the belt. I also went back and hit the front of the belt, that plate and those lightsaber holders with some silver paint. And here is the lightsabers painted up with that belt and the holsters all silver. I think I used a Citadel silver for this, but with the brown already painted on though, the silver went over top pretty easily. So that turned out pretty nice, just hand brushing that on there. But here's the arms after I got them all painted up. You can see I avoided all the paint rub by just trying to sand away anywhere that the parts would meet. That helps the paint kind of grip on a little bit better and also gives you more room to move around. I'm gonna use this brownish flesh tone to try to give him his kind of patterns on his arms and his legs and the spots. And I watered this down quite a bit and just did a few coats. I did a hard coat on the outside too. I think it looks better if you try to go back and dry brush some of that base flesh tone over top of this. It helps kind of blend everything in a little bit better where it isn't such a harsh transition. Here he is after I added that dry brush on though. You can see it really blended that in a little bit better. It is supposed to be kind of harsh transition, but this helped just make it look a little bit more natural. Here's the gauntlets on there. I just used this leather brown for the outer part, and then on the inside I think it was like an earth brown from Vallejo. On top of that, just dry brushed some of this sand color, and that helped kind of make it look a little bit more worn down, a little bit more natural. I really liked how this turned out with all those, but I used some JB Weld to kind of keep these on because I know these are going to get a lot of movement from those wrists. I didn't want them popping off. For the clone armor pieces, it's just basic white. I did the same thing with the JB Weld to keep that locked on there. I just didn't want this to ever pop off and probably snap the lightsaber or something. So here they are with the logos. I just used a Cricut to kind of cut these out. I couldn't find a good design for these, so I just made this in like paint or something. At this scale, it's not that big of a deal if it doesn't look perfect, but I added some weathering with the dry brush. I just dry brushed some black on the edges and made little streaks on there. But the logo turned out pretty well, I think. And I clear coated everything in this project, so the clear coat helps lock down those stickers a little bit better. Here's the hands all painted up. This part was kind of annoying just because I couldn't airbrush it as well, but this is the silver color I usually use. And I just painted up the hands and then went through and kind of hand painted these lightsabers in the hand. But they all turned out looking pretty good. The clear coat does kind of knock the shine down on these, so if you want them to look really good, I wouldn't clear coat it. I tried to add that gold on the inside. It just wasn't showing up very well, and I was having to put a bunch of coats on, so I kind of gave up on that. But here's the clone hands. Once again, I just hand painted all the black on there so I wouldn't mess up my skin tone. Here's the legs all put together. This is before, so these clone pieces just kind of slide up there, and then these knee pads are glued on top of those. But these clone pieces, like the clone armor pieces, do not want to fit underneath that skirt, so I end up trimming away some of that. But you can see I kept all of the articulation here. I used that JB weld on the clone armor pieces as well, and the bottom of the legs. The stuff works really good holding action figures together, and so I try to use it anywhere I can. I didn't like the transition here, so I went back and kind of sculpted in with the epoxy sculpt to get it a little bit smoother there, so it looks like he's wearing pants and not looks like he's wearing boots or anything. I did a brown wash on the legs to weather them up quite a bit, make it look a little bit more dirty. And then I went back and added those spots back in and did a little bit of a dry brushing. But this is kind of the finished product of the legs. These knee pads were a big pain to try to stick on there. I couldn't find a good way to stick them on there without breaking up any articulation, but I just ended up just JB welding them to the other clone parts. But you can see here, those legs did not want to fit underneath this skirt. I couldn't get it to actually pop back together there. So what I ended up doing is just taking my Dremel and cutting away some of those 3D printed parts just right here across the line. I did scratch up some places and I had to repaint a little bit, but I just added some weathering. It goes far enough up the skirt piece that you're never really gonna see these changes, but I tried to make it look pretty in case you did. But this helped it actually connect, and also it helped free up some movement there at the legs. Here's the head sculpt. I painted this with the same flesh tone when I did the other stuff, and I had to just go in and hand paint some of the details. I gave him kind of like a brownish black on this, I don't know what you call this, his hat, his hat horn, but I went in with some flesh washes to try to bring out some details around the eyes and around the mouth. And then I painted his little goatee brown, his hair brown, and I painted those lips the same flesh tone with a little bit of white added in. Then I had to go in and punch the eyes in. I just painted them yellow and then punched in all the teeth. Also added his little dots detail and the brown at the end of his little ear horn things. I don't know what to call his anatomy, but here he is all finished up. This project was really fun. The first version I did of this, the one you're looking at right here, was definitely kind of a pain, but I've made this guy 2 times since I've made this video, and the new kind of updated parts he gives are definitely a welcome change. Let me get it down and I'll show you what it looks like now. What's the chances I can get this guy down without knocking everything over? In case you want to see it, here's my Clone Wars shelf. Or my clone shelf. Come on. Oh. That was a lightsaber. Got him. Here he is off the shelf. I thought that I had kept one of the upgraded bodies, but this is the same body. But another upgrade they did is the head sculpt. This one looks way better in my opinion. That's why I decided to repaint this one to match. Here he is compared to a clone trooper on the new body. You can see this guy's massive. Maybe a little bit too big for a 1/12 scale, honestly, but he looks really good on the shelf. And especially with the changes, this guy was way easier to put together. I'll try to kind of show what I'm talking about here. So on the new version, it's split right here up the sides. There's like a cut right there where the 3D model is kind of split right there on the sides. And so instead of having to Dremel away so much of this body on the inside, you can just kind of heat up the shoulders a little bit. You can kind of pry it apart, put it on his body, and then push it back together. And whenever it cools down, it'll hold that spot. So that's way easier than having to Dremel away so much of the chest and back. But thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see next. I got a bunch of projects lined up, and hopefully more YouTube videos quicker. This one just got put on the back burner after I lost all the audio, but I'll see you next time, and thanks for watching. Bye.